Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "Entitled customers repeatedly parked in my driveway. I got them towed after multiple warnings. This is private property." My husband and I live in a pretty well-known city. Our particular street is busy itself as people use it as a shortcut to get on one of the main roads. Because of this, parking can be a real pain in the butt if you don't have a driveway. Luckily for us, we do have a driveway. However, unfortunately for us, we also have some very entitled neighbors. See, they have always been friendly with us prior to this situation, and well, until they started having weekly yard sales. Every Saturday, they started having yard sales. You could hear them setting up early in the morning. At first it was no worry to us. As a matter of fact, we actually bought a couple of vintage items from their yard sales on various occasions. However, as people realized they were having these yard sales every week, more and more cars were parked on our street on Saturdays. It was a little bit of an inconvenience as we had to be more careful if we were going somewhere for the day and had to back out of our driveway. However, they were not doing anything harmful. Until one day we came back home in the afternoon, someone was parked in our driveway, and upon closer inspection, it was our neighbor's car. We were a little confused and parked in the street before going over and asking our neighbor. When we asked our neighbor why he parked in our driveway, he said that he was trying to make room for all of the people coming to his yard sale. So he did not have enough parking space to accommodate the people coming to his yard sale, so that's why he decided to park in our driveway, taking over our space. We asked him if he could please move his car because this was our driveway and he should have asked before he took it upon himself to park there. I really did not understand, and upon our request I could tell that he was getting irritated. He said that he could not move his car right now because he was busy with his yard sale. My husband piped in and told him his wife was helping him and that it would only take 2 minutes. I was progressively getting more and more upset. If he wanted to make more space for his customers, he could have asked us. He could have even asked us to park in our garage or something. His house had a detached garage in the back, but he didn't, and he was coming off extremely entitled. Well, after arguing back and forth for a few minutes, he finally moved his car and we were able to park in our driveway again. He did not really talk to us for the week after that, but if he was going to be rude about the fact that he took advantage of our property, then I did not really care. However, the Saturday after that, he was having another yard sale like usual. We were out visiting my husband's mom for the day, and when we came back, not only was our neighbor's car back in our driveway, but so was another strange car. My husband finally had enough. Even though this was only the second time, there should not have been even a first time to begin with. We went over to the neighbor's yard sale and demanded that he removed his car from our driveway or we would call the police. We also demanded to know who the owner of the other car that was parked in our driveway is. To be honest, we were causing a little bit of a scene. I hated to be that person, but I don't feel like we should have to fight for our driveway. If he was going to have these yard sales, then he needed to make sure people knew where to park or direct them to park down the street or something. It was not fair to us at all. So of course, our neighbor gets butthurt that we have called him out in front of his yard sale customers. He stated that the other car belonged to a grandpa shopping at his yard sale with his kid and that making him park in the street would be a safety hazard since he used a cane. Listen, I know empathy when I see it, and this was definitely not it. I am almost willing to bet that he told one of his customers that they could park in our driveway, and it was clear that our neighbor was not going to budge this time. So I pulled out my phone and called the non-emergency police line in front of the neighbor. The officers actually arrived quickly, and upon arriving, our neighbor went right over and tried to explain his side of the story. My husband, being the smart man that he is, waiting calmly, and then explained to the officers what happened and how our neighbor parked in our driveway last weekend without permission as well. Our neighbor piped in and said he was doing it because his yard sale and how he does not do it any other time. The officer stated that it did not matter why he was doing it or when, as he did not have permission to park his car on our property at any time. Obviously, this pissed the neighbor off even more, and he still refused to move his car. So the officers help us get a tow truck called out to take care of the two cars. Needless to say, our neighbor was absolutely furious. We did not see his car for another 3 weeks, so we assumed it took him a while to get his car back. Not just that, but during these 3 weeks he was bad-talking us to a lot of the other neighbors on the street. While most of them were on our side, 2 or 3 households refused to talk to us as they were pretty close friends with this neighbor. Either way, I don't have to deal with these douchebags anymore, so I don't care. Oh, and he still has his yard sales every Saturday, except now he has a sign that says "Parking behind house." Sucks to suck. And yeah, Ripe Star, seeing that we have all these stories about neighbors getting each other's towed, I am curious, have you ever called a tow truck on someone? And if so, what was the situation like? Please let us know in the comments. And by the way, while you're at it, I would really appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, "Get paid for doing nothing? Nope." A few weeks ago, I decided to hire 3 moving guys for a few hours to move as much as they could into a pod I rented. I mostly wanted them there to get a few large furniture items from upstairs down into the pod, as it is just myself, 16-month-old son and pregnant wife. They were scheduled to show up at 10 AM and work 2 hours until noon, at which point I had a code I could give them and they would get paid for their work. Really super easy, I have used the service before. I took off and got a trailer for my Jeep in case there was any overflow and to take things we would need before the pod arrived. I get back to the house at 9:30 AM, 30 minutes before they are set to arrive, and they had been there for 15 minutes already talking to my wife. This is how it went down the moment I walked in the door. Wife, these mover guys have been lecturing me for 15 minutes on how they cannot do their job correctly unless they have shrink wrap for the couch. Me? Well, I got 4 packages of moving blankets and that should be more than enough to cover things in the pod. Head mover guy, we cannot guarantee your things won't get scratched a little if we don't have shrink wrap. Me? That is fine. I mostly hired you guys to get the heavy stuff in the pod and pack what you can during the time you are here. He then tells his 2 guys, both young dudes there just to move stuff and get the job done, to move downstairs as I had hired them to move heavy stuff downstairs. I would say a solid 10 minutes go by before my wife comes storming into the garage where I was packing last minute items, visibly mad and had her ends wit. Wife, they said they won't move the gun safe until we open it and prove there are no guns in there. I had locked the key in an ammo box that was already packed. Me, just tell them to leave it and I will do it later. It's not a high quality one and one person can move it with a dolly very easily, think drying machine. 2 seconds later, the head moving guy comes storming out to the garage as well, visibly flustered, and says he cannot move anything more because of hostile working conditions. Apparently my wife said in passing that we hired 2 high school kids one time and they moved all of our stuff in a few hours, and he thought that was the biggest affront to his abilities that she could have possibly done. HMG, I'm going to need cash or check up front to finish this job, or I'm going to have to charge my 2-hour minimum and leave. Conveniently, the same amount as if they did the work. Me, well, I will pay you after you do your job, through the moving service as agreed upon. I'm assuming at this point he looks for any excuse to cut out the middleman and get paid directly, and does this often. HMG, at this point, after working in these conditions and lacking the proper supplies needed, shrink wrap, I cannot complete this job and will need my 2-hour minimum. Me, I can see the pot from where I'm standing, empty, and they had been there 45 minutes. You guys have not even loaded a single thing into the pot. You have been moving things from room to room and telling my pregnant wife she is hostile and unprofessional. HMG, I can see you are stressed. Who wouldn't be when moving? But we cannot work with her in there and lacking the correct supplies. Me, look man, you can finish the job I hired you to do and you will get paid at the end of the job. Or you can get off my property and I will hire someone else. HMG, that is actually called theft of service and the police will come out to arrest you if you don't pay my 2-hour minimum. Me, that's not how that works, and if you have your lawyer's contact info, I will be glad to let mine know he will have some work soon. HMG, really bro? You would pay a lawyer over just paying me and my guys my minimum? If you don't, we will have to call the police for theft of service. He used this term like 80 times, assuming it works for him usually. Me, okay, you can get off my property and I'm calling the cops. I hope that was the clue he needed, that I was not going to give in to his scam, but he was sticking to his guns. Amazingly, the sheriff's department showed up in record time, about 20 minutes, and started talking to the guy. My wife insisted on talking to the officer since she had the most contact with the guy, so she did first, then me. Shockingly, not doing a job you were hired to do and then demanding money is not theft of service. The poor officer was out in front of our house talking to this guy for almost 2 hours, yelling at my neighbors about how cheap we are and demanding we pay his workers $100 since we held him up so long. After bringing us weird contracts saying I agreed to pay $100 because I demanded the impossible, they finally left without a red cent. The funny thing is, if they had just done their job, they would have been out of there an hour earlier with $200 in their pockets. We could not find any mover available on such short notice, so I ended up moving everything myself. It took me all day and I was pretty much dead by the end of it, but that CB did not get his money for nothing. So since then, I did learn not to hire the cheapest movers. More you spend, the less crazy comes with it. The next one is titled, I took away my own internet. I saw another post on here that reminded me of something that happened to me a couple years ago. I live in a commercial building that has been converted to apartments. It's a pretty small place, 6 to 7 units total, not 100% sure about the rooms upstairs. The apartment is really nice and the landlord does not charge what he could get away with. Because of this, he often ends up having to evict people that move in for 2 to 3 months and just quit paying rent. Anyway, that's besides the fact. When I move in, nobody really had internet in the building. One guy did on the end, but he was an MMO addict and had hardwired internet only. I got internet with Wi-Fi within a week from moving in. Needless to say, almost immediately neighbors started asking for the password. Some would offer to split the bill, I declined for several reasons, and others would beg to just use it for a day or two. It got old really fast, but I never gave in. One day, however, I noticed that the couple I lived next to were both on their phones. They had mentioned not having service another time, so I realized they must be on my internet. These same people had offered to pay me to use it before, but I declined because I knew I would never see more than one payment. So I get on my phone while sitting outside and pull up the router and change the password. Quickly I notice that they are frantic on their phones. One of them says, "Is something wrong with our internet?" I chime in that no, I just changed the password on my internet, knowing that damn well they don't have internet. The guy started laughing because he knew he was busted, but it was not a huge deal, though I was annoyed. The woman was quite the opposite. She was like, "Well, I need my internet back, so you can tell me the password." I refused, and then all night she kept saying stuff like, "God, why are you being a jerk?" Or, "Can't I just use it tonight?" The next day, a Saturday, she knocked on our door first thing in the morning. "I need to get on the internet because I need to call my son's school." "Oh, you can use my house phone for that if you would like." "Well, I need to talk to her teacher on Facebook, so..." Over the next week, she kept coming up with BS asking to use it for just tonight, or outright demanding the password. One of the last things she said was, "I'm actually pissed that you changed the password to my internet." I told her that I was pissed off that she was freeloading on my internet after I refused her money to use it. Turns out they paid my stepson $5 to get the password for a minute and were on it for a few days before I realized. Now I don't even tell him the password, and if he wants to use it with a device he can hand it to me to enter it. Anyway, my internet is not communal internet and you don't deserve it just because you need it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, have you ever had any neighbors that were complete freeloaders and tried to use your internet for free? Please let us know in the comments if you ever let someone use your Wi-Fi. I definitely would never let anyone use my internet, simply also because I am quite paranoid when it comes to traffic, and I would not want anyone to ever have the slightest chance of getting my YouTube password or anything. The next one is titled The Last Donation. Every year around this time, the church that my late mother attended, I'm not particularly religious nor is my wife, chooses a few local families that are in need to sponsor and request donations for. The donators really go all out and provide everything from tree to full Christmas dinner to several gifts for each member of the family. It's really a charming and heartwarming experience to see people coming together to take care of others like this. That being said, since my mother passed away, my wife and I have become a silent partner with this program, and given that we are very comfortable financially, we take responsibility for an entire family and we cover all the expenses for everything. Please don't construe this as bragging, as I did this as a memorial to my amazing mother that I miss every day. Anyway, we have done this for several years now, and every year we are given a family chosen by the minister's wife and an accompanying list of family members' wish lists. We tend to cover the entire list and make sure that we even get the brands they request for items and food. We then drop the items off at the church and they take responsibility to deliver the items and wrap them for us. Last year we were assigned a family, the same family we were given the last few years, and a list of rather pricey items that they would like. Oh well, this the season. We purchased everything on the list, but when we were getting ready to drop things off, we were called and notified that the gentleman, brother-in-law of the minister, that usually takes care of delivering the items was very ill and unable to do it right now. Could we wait until he got better to drop them off? This was 3 days until Christmas. You know what? No problem. We asked for the address of the family and we would drop off the gifts ourselves. Red flag number 1, the minister's wife was very reluctant to give us the address. Red flag number 2, the family lives in a very wealthy area of town. Not saying that people cannot be down on their luck in nice neighborhoods, but it still stuck out as odd. Red flag 3, we get to the home and the people that live there are not an impoverished family in need, they are relatives of the minister. These complete douchebags were and have been scamming my wife and I to provide the minister's wife's own family with Christmas presents and food. They actually opened their garage for us to be able to put the gifts inside, and it was clear that they were scamming many people. The garage was filled with gifts and clothes, and they even bragged that people really came through for them this year as opposed to last year. I absolutely lost my mind. I exploded on them. I created the biggest scene in the neighborhood that has probably ever occurred and made sure to tell every single nosy neighbor exactly what these monsters were doing. I then took my food donations to the local mission and the gifts to Toys for Tots. After it got out, the minister's wife is apparently no longer working for the church in any capacity and the minister is being replaced.
Hey Ripe Stars, unfortunately we have reached the end of the video, but that means you can see more Disney footage. And usually, because I need to water this tree every single morning, I don't really let Disney out until maybe 3 or 4 hours later or something, until this is dry. But I think now it's fine for her to go. Sometimes she is a little bit scared though because of the airplane noise, and then she runs inside. But yeah, sometimes she really likes being outside, right, Disney? If only Disney would know how famous she is on the internet. I think all she's concerned about is just sleeping and eating. So yeah, oh my god, my feet got really wet. Well, anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I see you again tomorrow.
And Ripe Stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional Ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.